Welcome. Today we will have a look at the art history timeline. As long as we have been able to use our hands, we have been creating art. It is important to know about all the different art periods, and you can also learn how to identify which movement a work belongs to, just by looking at it. Artists have always been influenced by the political and social events that happened during their times. We could say that if you know about all the art periods, you have a pretty good understanding of history in general. Something that has really defined many artists and shaped many art movements is philosophy. Artists all over the world have been capturing its ideas in their works. The same can be said about religion and science. So, let's have a look at the most important periods in art history. The first forms of art have been found in caves, around 40,000 years ago. Most of them represent hunting scenes, and it is thought that people drew these images to wish themselves good luck when they went hunting. Other forms of art at the time were rock carvings, engravings, sculptures, and stone arrangements. This period is called Prehistoric Art. Then we have the era of ancient art. It was produced by advanced civilizations, which refers to those with an established written language. This art served different purposes: to tell stories, decorate objects like bowls and weapons, display religious imagery, and demonstrate social status. Many works depict stories of rulers, gods, and goddesses. The Egyptians, the Greek and the Romans are great examples of ancient art. After the fall of the Roman Empire, the Middle Ages started. It was a period of economic and cultural deterioration. Most of the art during this time was centered around religion. Artists were in fact working for the church to create artwork, which in most cases represented Jesus and scenes from the Bible. The Gothic style developed during this time, which is characterized by vertical proportions, pointed arches, external buttressing, and asymmetry. Towards the end of the Middle Ages, life started to become easier for most people. It was a rather peaceful period in terms of wars and politics, and this led to a rebirth. Trade and commerce increased, and cities grew larger and wealthier. In particular, the Italian city of Florence was thriving due to the Medici. They were a rich merchant family who supported the arts and humanism, a variety of beliefs and philosophies that placed emphasis on the human realm. That's how the Renaissance was born. The word means rebirth. Art during this period was focused on individualism and nature, rather than religion, as we saw during the Middle Ages. Renaissance artists also revised the classical culture of the Romans and Greeks, and they took inspiration from it. The Renaissance was probably the most important age in history, because during this period society as we know it started to develop. When we talk about the Renaissance, we have to mention Brunelleschi, Botticelli, Da Vinci, Raphael and Michelangelo. This period led to the birth of other similar movements, like Mannerism. It followed the standard of perfect beauty, achieved by the Renaissance masters. Mannerists began to question the idea that man was the center of the universe and sought to use art to focus on matters of aesthetics, and to create works that privileged the emotions over the intellect. Then we have the Baroque period. It was characterized by grandeur and richness, prompted by the Church in Rome, which wanted to reassert its importance and authority. Baroque paintings were characterized by drama, and artists used an intense contrast between light and dark, creating energetic compositions. After the Baroque, the Rococo movement started to develop. It was characterized by lightness and elegance, focusing on the use of natural forms, asymmetrical design, and subtle colors. Rococo paintings were typically commissioned by wealthy patrons, who shared a new taste for gaiety and frivolity in art. The discovery of the Italian cities of Herculaneum and Pompeii reawakened a passion for classical art, and artists strove to recreate the great works of ancient geniuses. This was the neoclassical period. Simplicity, restraint, harmony, and order returned as the highest virtues in art. The neoclassical period sparked a reaction against rationalism and order. This created the Romanticism movement. Romantics allowed emotions and imagination to dominate reason, and they celebrated creativity and individualism. They created works that inspired passions and emotions. After Neoclassicism and Romanticism, a new interest in capturing everyday life started to spread. It was the Realism movement. It began in France as a result of the rise of journalism and the advent of photography. Realists removed any sentimentality from art, and they painted images that were considered ugly, because they focused on subjects like poor people and prostitutes. Then we have the Impressionism. It began when avant-garde artists scandalized the art world after being refused admission to the official art salon. These painters sought to capture the immediate impression of a particular moment. This was characterized by short, quick brushstrokes and an unfinished, sketch-like feel. They used modern life as their subject matter. The Post-Impressionism started when a group of artists decided to rebel against the Impressionism ideas. They worked independently rather than as a group, but they all concentrated on subjective visions and personal meanings rather than observations of the outside world. The Art Nouveau attempted to create an entirely authentic movement, free from any imitation of styles that preceded it. It focused on the natural world, characterized by long, sinuous lines and elegant decorations. The Sagrada Familia from Gaudí is a great example of Art Nouveau. Expressionism emerged as a response to conflicted worldviews and the loss of spirituality. The Expressionists focused, in fact, on communicating spirituality and feeling in art. Art now came from within the artist, not the external world. Cubism was based on the concept that art should copy nature. Artists moved away from traditional techniques and perspectives. Instead, they created radically fragmented objects through abstraction. The Surrealism movement called for a revolution of the mind. It was influenced by Freud's theories on the unconscious, dreams, desire, and repression. Surrealists denounced the rationalist mindset, and they thought that art can only be created by accessing our unconscious. The abstract expressionism emerged in New York after the Second World War. Artists broke away from what was considered conventional, and instead used spontaneity and improvisation to create abstract works of art. Jackson Pollock, for example, was famous for his action painting. The last movement we will talk about today is the pop art. It used everyday, mundane objects to create innovative works of art that challenged consumerism and mass media. Andy Warhol is the most famous example, and he believed that art can come from any source and its purpose is to challenge the traditions of fine art. So, what is your favorite art movement? Leave a comment.